Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's read this and see where it goes. It says, "Dear Perchy Perchy Perch. Hmm. Greetings again. This is my second time writing to your show. Allow me to start with a quote. Trust me, it's comics relevant. What is new is not necessarily good because it is new. What is old, however, is worthy of our respect, attention, and study because it is old, because it has lasted." All right. All right. I like that. From Notes on Directing by Hauser and Wright. I'm sure someone such as yourself must have come across the one-page comic art primer, Wally Wood's 22 panels that always work. That'd be a good thing to review at some point. Anyway, one day I was with friends. One was a comics professional, by which I mean a person who creates comics for a living as a freelancer in mainstream comics. Another was about to create a comic for the first time. The latter person asked for advice. I immediately shoved Wood's primer at them. The professional dismissed this immediately and discouraged the use of it and essentially said a pox upon all old works. Now, at best, I can be described as comics adjacent. I've never created a comic for sales, though I have for fun. The newbie, of course, went with the advice of the professional. This saddened me. Why would we not get value with what has gone before and what has survived? One of the reasons I was sad about the whole pox comment because of how Wally Wood died. How much do you want to bet the pro didn't know Wood's history? Yeah, I mean, certainly. All fields of organized knowledge, including the arts, respect what has come before. I don't agree with that, but they should. But anyway, that's what we'll get into. The study to get better, so why not comics? My question is, could this active, deliberate dismissal of the past be the reason for so many shitty new mainstream comics? That's it, and stay away from Arby's as usual. Wise words from a wise man. You don't want to poison yourself. It's that simple. Um, Look, I think there was a change in should you study the classics, and I think that change went about in the late '80s, early '90s. I had taken some art classes in college in the '90s, and I was going through that. It was going through that transition at that time because I had one kind of art instructor, one professor who was really big into the classics to the point, like to almost a maddening degree. Like, you need to study this. It's like, well, this is not the kind of art I like to do. It doesn't matter. You need to study it anyway. And you need to look at the foundations of what has come before. He was very insistent upon that. In hindsight, he was right. In the moment, it was super annoying. And I think that that's kind of where we're going here. The other professor was like, hey, the past could be instructive, but, think of the past like handcuffs. So as an artiste, you should always be looking to break those handcuffs and forge your own path. And there's wisdom to that statement, the statement that, you can't just clone someone else. And this is where I think, like a lot of things, people will say things and then take them either out of context or just too far. That people will say things and they will, they'll basically intentionally misrepresent what's being said. Obviously, if you're a writer, if you're an artist, if you're anywhere in the creative field, you can't just regurgitate what has come before. You can't trace what has come before. You need to have your own style, have your own vision. You need to understand the fundamentals of art so you can actually produce something new. And, nobody is asking you to just recreate the same comics. And to that point, when people say, I wish comics could go back, or I wish comics were more like they were in the 90s and all that, they're not literally saying comics should not have any new ideas. Comics should only do the old stories. Comics should only do the same things. And Marvel has been doing these limited series where they're going back and they're not going back. They're putting out new things, but it's like as set during the time when the Hulk was gray and working in Las Vegas and stuff like that. And it almost feels sometimes like there's an editorial mandate to intentionally just retread old ground rather than do new things with that ground. And to me, that's not one. That's not what anybody's asking for. Two, it's a gross misrepresentation of what we're trying to get when people say, "I wish comics could be like the '90s." Or what a lot of people are saying is the care, the attention to continuity, the storylines that actually had subplots and stuff like that, and not stuff where it feels like a PSA or it feels like the writer is basically has no idea whether they're going to get renewed beyond issue 2, so they're just kind of killing time, or they're deconstructing the superhero with like, but what if instead of a superhero fight, they made food instead? And it's that kind of stuff that when people say, I wish comics were more like the '90s, they're talking about style. They're talking a little less about substance. They're not wanting you to go clone yourself. So anyway, um, but I mentioned, I'm in both these classes, right? I've got teacher A who's saying, hey, you need to pay attention to history, you need to pay attention to the fundamentals. And again, I remember being annoyed by several of those classes. So it's like, I don't like painting, for example. I've never liked painting. And, this guy's teaching me painting. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm studying, master painters. There's no point to it for me. The reality is, and I remember feeling kind of begrudging acceptance at the end of this class because I still didn't like painting. I still had no intention of doing painting, but by learning how the masters painted, I picked up shadowing, I picked up dimension, I picked up composition, I picked up things that helped me in other mediums, and that was, of course, the point. That was why the professor was doing that. By studying the masters, you study people who have, through trial and error, explored all these things and come to some conclusions around how great work gets done. And that was worth learning from. And so that was the point, and that was why it was good to do it. The second teacher I liked more. Second teacher was like, no, fuck it, do what you want, be your own person. And again, at the end of the year, it dawned on me I learned very little from that class. I basically hardened my own style. That was useful, practice and repetition. It's not like it was wasted, but I didn't evolve. And so, the whole point of this stuff, the point of, learning new skills of studying the masters and looking at the past is that, you had a lot of people perfect things in the past. The other thing is the past is not absolute. The past is not like everything that happened in the past is brilliant. A lot of it isn't. And you get to learn from that too. You get to learn from things that didn't land and weren't as good. And, not every Todd McFarlane comic looks beautiful. He experimented with some stuff that didn't work out. And so you get to see that value as well. The past is helpful. And I think in comics, there is this attitude. It's probably similar to the way I felt as a kid when I was, learning how to draw. And I'm kind of getting these two perspectives of, no, I want to be my own person. My work isn't worthy unless I'm creating it myself, unless it's original, unless it's mine and only mine. And if you think about it, that's probably a lot of what you see in comic professionals, people who are out drawing. They're stuck in that mentality of, I want to make a mark on things, therefore I have to do my own thing. I don't need to study these people. It has to be mine. And there is that vibe. You talk to creators, and creators will tell you things like this. So give you that kind of creative input of, it needs to be, it needs to be my original work. I'm not going to pay attention to the past. The past is restrictive. It's kind of like that teacher said, you need to break the handcuffs. Particularly you see this with writers who are like, I shouldn't have to study that continuity. One, that feels like a lot of work. And two, it feels restrictive. It feels like I'm basically being told I can't do my own thing. I have to do somebody else's thing. And I saw I need to do something new. I'm my own creator. I'm my own person. And so I think they kind of get in their own head with this stuff. Yeah, but it doesn't work. I mean, if you look at the comics that have been really successful, the stuff that's sold, the stuff that really hits home, more often than not, it is content that is certainly new, original, great idea, but has roots to the past that is pulling from something. I mean, even a guy who's a detractor for a lot of this stuff, Alan Moore, if you look at a lot of the stuff that's been very successful from him, it definitely ties to the past. If you look at Watchmen, it definitely connects to previous comics. The comic wouldn't work if it didn't. And so, you get these creators who are, new and I mean, hell, Grant Morrison is often cited by a lot of modern comic professionals as being kind of new, innovative, one of the masters of our time, does not does not stick with traditions, kind of does his own thing. And yet, if you look in his own words for interviews he's done, he cites a number of past, references and inspirations that have allowed him to be who he is. And he sees it as critical to his work. So, you can't give up on that. It is definitely a part of what comics are and should be and always will be. That's the past is important, and it's just stupid to say otherwise. It's I don't know. It's a combination of just arrogant, which is what it is mostly, or just somebody who's frankly not willing to invest the time into learning about the thing they're trying to make money off of. And guess what? They'll make less money. So definitely your friend should have taken your advice. Definitely look into what works, what doesn't, and then be your own person. Nobody's telling you that you can't have your own style. Of course you have to have your own style. And nobody's telling you that by learning the rules, you can never break the rules. Great artists break the rules all the time. They understand the rules, so when they break them, it has more meaning and more impact in their work. That's the whole point. Anyway, thank you very much for the mail. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.